You're listening to the Invincible podcast, now available to stream in the city of Atlantis.
Hello and welcome to the Invincible podcast, probably the best superhero podcast in the universe. This is a show where friends get to talk all things Invincible, a comic book and animated series created by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Ottley. I'm one of your hosts today, Wyatt, and joining me today is Ryan.
Hey, everybody.
TJ.
Oh, hello, it's TJ.
And Bill.
Hi, everybody.
Excited to talk about
We are
episode
here.
2.
Yeah, we are here to talk about episode 2 and do our full spoiler-filled breakdown of episode 2.
Right.
But of course, there's a few other news items that we're going to get to, a few emails of people that wrote in. Thank you so much to everybody who wrote in and shared their thoughts about episode 1. So we're going to be recapping some of that news, some of the emails that we got, reading off some of those before we jump into our spoiler-filled section. And just as a reminder, of course, we have seen all 4 episodes at this point, but we recorded our spoiler-filled thoughts after watching each individual episode. So once we jump to that episode breakdown, it'll only be about episode 2. That's all we'll have seen up to that point. So no worries for us accidentally spoiling something in the future.
That's right. We also try to keep comic book spoilers to a minimum, but we are first and foremost fans of the comic book. So there may be some things here and there, some educated guesses, if you will, of what's to come. So be aware that is also the case. And as far as the different segments here, we do have all the time codes in the description and chapters on YouTube and everything like that. So if you want to just skip right ahead to the breakdown or, go back to the email section or whichever, you can use that as well.
One thing that I feel like we should have brought up on the first recap that I wanted to bring up, if you are just finding the podcast and you haven't listened to this podcast since season 1 of Invincible and you watched all our recaps then, you haven't listened to us since, you might be confused as to what you're seeing on your screen. You might be confused as to what you're hearing. So just to put your minds at ease, he was birthed into the podcast during season 1 of Invincible, and he hasn't gone anywhere. It's the sweet one. He's still here, and he's got merchandise now, and he's thriving, and he's riding down the banister, and he's spinning around the spin cycle, and he's here, and he's got you. He's got you for 3 minutes, and you ain't going nowhere. Nowhere.
That is not where I thought any of that was going to go. None of it.
Also, Wyatt joined the podcast earlier this year, so that was fun.
Yeah, I'm here too. Also,
Also,
man, that was a wild ride, TJ. I was just
Yeah.
along for it too. I didn't
Also,
know where we were
have
It's been
going.
a while, and I had to let people know he's still here. He's still here.
Have fun seeing me get a
Oh
tattoo
my God.
and then have part of it missing and then have some of it
You're right.
finished and then some of
That's
it
true.
gone.
That's true.
So
Oh, that's right.
if that helps you visualize what Ryan's talking about, that's how we're recording all these segments. So check this out.
Yeah.
It doesn't match what's going on.
Yeah. It won't be there at the later half of this episode.
We actually made Bill go get a tattoo just to confuse the viewers
right.
of the episode.
Yeah.
Be like, what's happening with Bill's arm?
Continuity's all off.
It's so off. And our brains match.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's going on. What are we talking about right now?
Of course, you can email us at theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com, like some people have that we're going to read later.
Okay.
Follow us on Twitter /X, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, invinciblepodcast.com. We have a TikTok. Go watch that. Lots of fun clips there. And let's get into some of the news items. Not a ton because we just had our episode 1 reactions last week. But episode 1 came out really since we were recording last. There was an LA premiere, which was very cool.
Yeah.
I almost went to it. It was just far enough of a drive that I'd have to take a day off work, and I just couldn't manage it. But very cool.
We had
Lots of cool stuff going on there.
A few listeners made it out there. Luke, Mitch, and everybody.
Yeah.
Jose. I mean, looked like they had a really good time. And some more on that later in the
Like-
episode.
They met up with each other,
Yeah.
right? Did we see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very
I
cool.
love seeing the community
Yeah.
get together and how many friends, not just on this podcast, but have formed outside of the podcast, but with the podcast.
Yep.
It's great.
We were kind of talking about that, in our group chat, just amongst ourselves, about how, there are Marvel fanboys out there that are just, and that community is just ridiculously big. But there's something special about the Invincible community and where it lies right now, and it's going to continue to grow, and it's getting bigger and bigger. But we just love seeing like new people join, like being where we are now, in the state of the fan base where it is now, and seeing it grow, but also seeing people that we know experience things, and going to events like that is like, oh, it's so good, it's so special, love it.
It is for sure. We also recently, when episode 1 came out, the Invincible Twitter account posted a little like trailer that was mostly just like promoting all of the positive reviews for the first half of season 2. But there was like a new clip that we hadn't seen in any of the trailers yet of Rexplode saying we're still the best superhero team in the universe.
Yep.
Which
It's a fun.
Kinda cool
It also kind of sounds
new
like
piece of footage.
it's referencing the title of the comic, or the subline on the
True.
comic, which is fun.
Yeah.
It is still at a 100% with 36 reviews.
It is
Certified.
So let's
Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think I saw like audience score or whatever was a little bit lower. I think it was down to like 91.
91.
I don't know how much
Bastard.
that fluctuates though. But we'll
Whoever
see.
wrote the IGN one probably went on Rotten Tomatoes.
Jesus,
Dumb bitch.
jeez.
Or sir.
Never
It could be a
gonna-
dumb
never
sir as
gonna
well,
forget.
not just a dumb bitch.
Moving on, they also have released a few clips from episode 2, which is of course out now that everybody saw, but that was neat to see them kind of release a couple of little clips and
Yeah.
trailers to get people excited for this episode.
Yeah, I think they showed Shapesmith, right? A
yeah,
Shapesmith clip.
yeah.
Clip.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
And then, and also sort of unrelated, we didn't have this on the notes, but the actors' strike is over. So I saw Ben Schwartz tweeting about the
Oh,
show,
really?
being like,
Oh,
that's
so
cool.
excited for
I
people to
didn't see
meet
it either.
Shapesmith and everything. Like I think he retweeted the clip that they had posted of Shapesmith being like, this guy seems fun or whatever.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
very
Nice.
much looking forward to, hopefully in the next few weeks, or especially as they gear up to promote the second half of the season, finally getting to see the actors make the rounds and really get to like celebrate this show.
Yeah.
So I'm sure like for them, it's been frustrating to see all of the excitement and not get to engage in it.
Yeah, I really wonder
Engage
if,
with-
like you're saying, like the lead up to the second half of the season, we're going to see more of that. Very cool.
And J.K. Simmons, I know you're listening to the podcast. You're welcome anytime.
Oh, yeah, anytime.
Let's just put that out there so that he can come and promote the
Just
second
give
half.
us a sign that you listen to it. Like just give us one sign. Does he have a Twitter or an X account?
We
I
just
don't
we
think
just get
so.
a random email from some unknown gibberish email that says I'm listening.
I'm
So
listening.
like
Nothing else.
Or not my tempo or
J-
something
JK,
like that.
JK,
I would die. I would quit the podcast. It couldn't get better.
J.K. Simmons and Steven Yeun obviously are like our dream people, but
It's-
I gotta say it every time.
I know.
I have to. Jason Mantzoukas would make such an incredible podcast guest, and it's Rexplode. And I mean, come on,
Yeah.
Jason Mantzoukas. If you're
I would
watching,
like if I feel like we
Please
need to
make our
have
dreams
him
come
and
true.
Ben Schwartz on at the same
Oh,
time.
it would be
just have the
chaos.
two of
It
them
would be
podcast
mayhem.
with each other. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be awesome.
it would be insane.
Also, we had another trailer for the Adam Eve game, which is coming out, gosh, in like
Oh my
They have
god!
less than a week.
Yes. Like
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Omni-Man is
shit.
today, the day we're recording this. Adam Eve is next in less than a week. Like,
Thank God I
Yeah.
just beat Spider-Man.
I have
so
a-
now I'm all in.
I have a question.
yes.
Yes.
I do not have a Steam Deck. How am
Yeah.
I going to play this?
So TJ, you and I are kind of in the same boat. I mean, my wife kind of has an old PC I might try and play it on. Otherwise, I think you and I are just gonna have to either borrow Bill's Steam Deck or wait till it comes out on console or Mac.
We don't know
And-
how long this game is, right? Like how
It-
many hours?
I'll
I'm
tell you.
expecting,
I'll
like-
tell you every step of the
I'm
way.
expecting like 3-ish, 3 to 4.
No way. Probably
Probably
6.
not super long, but
Mm.
yeah, they haven't said
say
anything
6
official.
hours.
But we are planning on streaming both Mortal Kombat and the Adam Eve game at some point. Like, keep an eye out on our Twitter and all.
If
of
you're
that.
hearing
We'll be
this,
sure to
it's
post in advance
Sooner than later, like
Yes,
shortly after this
correct.
release. Yep, this weekend we'll be streaming it.
Maybe you should
And
hit
also
subscribe on our
the,
YouTube page so you know that when we go live, you'll get a notification.
That'll do it.
This is true.
Maybe
This is
not.
true. That.
Mhm.
Also, the hardcover for Compendium 3 is now out as well as part of the news. So that was cool to see that
Right,
that's
I should just spend so
fully
much
out
money on
now. And you
vacation.
can get all of those.
That is
I
right.
know.
All right. I think that's all of our news. So we can start jumping into emails
Yes.
as well as doodles that some people sent in along with their emails, since our new section of doodles has gone so well. And not really news, but I feel like we have to acknowledge the fact that Ryan Ottley responded to our doodles.
Or did he respond or did he refuse to respond? Because I think
he pled the
too.
fifth.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
too.
he pled the fifth on that one.
But go find our post on Twitter if you want to see how he responded and what he thinks of our art skills. Which I almost made me happy.
Responded with the Big Bird, like, one of these things is not like the other, because yours was really good, Wyatt.
Yours was passable, at least, Wyatt.
Yeah.
No, we were all of equal quality.
TJ's was too. TJ's was like a caricature.
Listen,
but ours.
I know mine was really bad.
In Ryan Otley's eyes, I'm sure all of ours are of the same quality.
Yeah.
I make up for it on this episode, guys. The doodles do get better. They get better.
Yeah, I agree.
I do not. We record it. What you're about to see, like, after we go through emails, the episode 2 recap, the reason why you're here, what you're about to see, we recorded that like 2-3 weeks ago. I don't even remember what the doodles are.
Yeah.
Don't even remember.
Yeah.
I'm almost excited
to
remember
what mine are, but I don't remember all of yours.
I'm gonna be pretentious and listen to ourselves.
Dude, I did when I edited this
I remember
episode,
what mine is. Okay,
a couple days ago when I edited
is.
the breakdown. It's a good episode. You guys are in for a treat, but we got to do emails first. You guys wrote in a bunch of emails, and we don't have super long. We want to get to the breakdown, so we did cut down a little bit on some of these. So we did edit them down a little bit. But thank you all for all your emails. We always read all of them, and definitely read as much as we can. We just want to get through this. So I'm going to kick it off. This one here comes from Zach. Zach says, "Hello, Invincible Podcast. So excited that the new season is out. I thought now is the right time to send in a letter. I first saw the podcast when I watched the first season, but decided to hold off for when I actually read the series. So then after watching the show, I then read the Ultimate Collection Volume 1, but I stopped and I didn't make it much further, knowing I'd come back to it later as the next season was in production. This September, with the ramp up to season 2, I picked back up on reading Invincible and ripped through the entire series. I couldn't put it down. Highlights for me were the confrontation around issue 50, Doc Seismic's appearances, Tara, and of course, a fan favorite conquest fight. I loved the character-driven storytelling and seeing how the story changed and evolved. On to episode 1. It was a great reintroduction into the world of Invincible. That's what I say too. I love saying that's the best way to put it. I watched the episode twice. The new season comes in so effortlessly and with such confidence in the way the story is being told, weaving storylines in interesting and innovative ways. Yes. I love how each time...
Wait until you watch this episode. They do some weaving.
Oh, yeah. I love how each time a character said, Invincible, it was the biggest pause ever. The team knows what they're doing. I thought the episode did a great job giving Angstrom more pathos and sympathy. One of the things I really wanted since last season was to see Amber and Mark be more open and honest and have their cards on the table. I think the scene with Todd and the acceptance letter scene showed that things were now where they are able to be clear with each other. They make a really good couple, and I'm happy with it. One last thing, I really look forward to seeing Darkwing and Night City, since that part was something that I felt could use some more development. Anyway, I think I've gone on long enough. Love, Zach. Thank you, Zach.
So keep in mind, too, that the emails that we're getting, this was before they watched episode 2, because obviously this episode is coming out.
Yeah. These are your thoughts on episode 1.
Right. So we're just recapping episode 1 and your thoughts on those.
So it's our own
just
previously
one more of those little crazy fucking mind warps that you're like, wait a minute.
I love that he mentioned Doc Seismic as a favorite.
Yeah. That's really cool.
That's cool.
I mean, I wonder if after watching the show, you have this greater picture. Because I mean, when Doc Seismic showed up in the comic, when we were reading it, he's kind of like a B villain that you don't think of much.
Yeah.
True.
But for fans of the show that then read the comic, it's probably like, oh, it's that guy, one of the few guys you see in season 1.
Yeah.
So it's probably more exciting.
Yeah.
Listen, all of these B villains, they get their moments to shine.
They do.
Dude, I bet,
including Doc Seismic. He's got a great story. He does.
I bet if we were to walk up to an Invincible fan, or a fan of the comic that has never seen us, the podcast, or how we review it and talk about it, and we were to ask him about Powerplex, I bet he'd, I feel like he's somebody that not many people know about, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
love Powerplex.
We make a bigger
You know what
deal
I
of
mean?
Powerplex than he is,
We
I
do
think.
because we love Powerplex. But
Yeah.
like Doc
Yeah.
Seismic, he probably thinks of them the way we think of maybe Powerplex or
Maybe.
some other
Wyatt, you got
guys
one?
like
characters.
That- I have one from Scotty. I feel like I end up reading Scotty's a lot.
Hmm.
I like it. It's nice consistency there. He says, "Hey, Invincible podcast crew, great episode as always. I loved the breakdown of the season 2 premiere of Invincible. I loved that we got that extended fight between Immortal and Invincible in the opening, because in the comic, Omni-Man and Invincible just make quick work of Robot and Immortal before Angstrom grabs the Angstrom from that universe. I was also impressed with the episode's ability to include 12 issues worth of storytelling into one episode and do it well." That's true,
Man.
because it does really, like, you forget that it covers that, like, I obviously the comic is written in like arcs and everything, but they get to also break it down into like just what's this issue about. And in the show, it is like combining.
And people
a lot of
have
stuff.
at this point watched episode 2.
Yeah, I was about to say
Like-
that. Like episode 2 is literally just taking all these pieces and putting them together. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. So Scotty continues. He says, "I could see the show briefly checking in on Angstrom as he plots his revenge, as is established." Sorry, I think I skipped a line. As he plots his revenge, as the comic briefly checks on him during his origin issues.
Mhm.
Now that Angstrom's backstory is established, I can see the show build towards the battle with Angstrom and Invincible, where Invincible is sent to alternate realities like the Marvel and DC universes, or altered to where Mark is sent to the Energon and Boys universes instead. Either way, I see that multiverse battle being the season finale. I could also see Alan saving Captain Piquel and the Space Trek crew being a cold open to one of these first 4 episodes. I think Midnight City is coming in the next episode.
You were right.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, the subway is from Mortal Kombat 3, and that map is also featured in Mortal Kombat Armageddon for the PS2 and Xbox, and Mortal Kombat 2011 for PS3 and 360 too.
Nerd.
Very
Play
cool
a
to
different
see.
video game.
It's very cool to see that they used in a fatality that way instead of throwing opponents in the oncoming subway like in the previous games. Sincerely, Scotty. I did look that up after he
Same.
mentioned it. I went to go look, and there is like a distinct like banner along the side that you can tell is like from the old ones.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
That is a really
Neat
neat
detail.
reference.
Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you, Scotty. But
Who should go
Bill or
next?
TJ? Probably Bill. TJ just took a sip.
I'll go next.
I got it ready.
So mine, I love how they sounded out the last name, so I could try it at the end, but I'll wait until the end. So just want to give you all some kudos on all your hard work. With the increasing popularity of Invincible, you remain a bright beacon in the sea of mediocrity that is Invincible coverage on the internet.
Wow.
I've noticed a lot of channels and outlets jumping on the Invincible train. Or Subway. That's my little thing. He didn't say
Nice.
that.
Bill's like, make sure you give me credit for this. I made a
I mean,
joke.
it's just funny because we just talked about it. The Invincible Subway train. And the content has been less than satisfying. You're real fans, and it shows. Thanks for continuing to bring fun and thoughtful conversation to this thing we love. Thank you so much. Not to say that other people aren't real fans, but we well, thank you.
I think he means we're
really
true
gonna-
fans. We are like true.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of other Invincible things out there now.
Mhm.
But that's just very nice of you to say. We appreciate you saying
Can
that.
I
So,
interject real quick? Like,
sure.
I like a bunch of the new Rockstar stuff, and so getting to watch them put out like a 12 things you missed from Invincible episode 1 type video, which I know those are clickbaity and there's a ton of those out there and everything like that. But I think new Rockstars does a good job on their content, especially their like MCU stuff and everything. But watching that, I could tell, like, I forgot his name. He does a lot of their content, and he was on Kind of Funny and everything like that. But anyways, he's a fan. He loves the show. He's excited about it, and you can tell. And there is that energy in there, which is really cool.
Greg Miller. I mean, Greg Miller is the reason why we podcast, and he is a true Invincible fan. But he doesn't do any Invincible content.
Yeah,
very seldomly.
Right.
They're out there.
But thank you for saying all that. That's
So-
really kind.
Yeah, it is.
They continue. The new episode was great, just what I had hoped for. Did you notice that one alternate Mauler looked like he was using technology from those technician dudes, Wyatt, that Angstrom eventually partners with? Those characters have always been a big mystery, so it'd be cool to learn a little more about them and their world. What are some other more obscure characters that you guys would like to see get a little screen time / story development? All the best, Murad Erzinchlioglu.
He,
This isn't a Mad Lib.
Uh,
That's their last
That's
name.
cool.
no, he
Erzinchlioglu.
he actually has messaged us quite a few times on Facebook. We've talked to him
Nice.
before.
Oh,
yeah.
we have?
Oh yeah,
Well, I've never sounded out his last name before, so I appreciate that.
He's a long time listener.
So, what other obscure characters
first-
would you like to see?
First one that comes to mind that if they did anything more than like a 10-second thing, I'd be amazed, would be Octobus.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like
That's the
if-
one I've been
that's a
wanting.
great
That was
one.
before the season started. That was the one I wanted.
because like he's got all he needs in the comic, and it's like, all right, he's a joke, you know. But if they gave him just one level deeper of anything at all,
Mhm.
that'd be pretty funny.
I mean, all of Octobus's lines in the comic make us chuckle. So if you just give him another line,
Yes,
like it's
yeah.
we're probably
Yeah.
just gonna eat it up. Like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I know that
Um,
I'm gonna kick myself about this question like 2 hours later because I'm like having trouble thinking of a good answer right now. But I know I'm sure there's tons of them that would be cool to see more. For some reason, the first thing that popped into my head, and future spoilers for later episodes, mute me for like 10 seconds.
For
if
sure,
you don't
yeah.
wanna
This
hear.
is definitely spoilery right now.
Was Tara when she's really little and her little like educational robot. Maybe it's because
Oh,
I'm a teacher,
Eddie.
but I would love just a little like extended series of like, what's it like for that robot trying to be Tara's teacher when she just doesn't care and just wants to play?
What was
and be
its
cute
name?
and
It was
all
like
that.
Ed
Eddie
something, wasn't
or
it?
Edie.
I think it was
Eddie,
Eddie. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up. But
Right.
yeah, give me more of the little robot and little Tara.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if you get like a buddy villain like episode with Tether
Oh my
Tyrant
God.
and Magmaniac, and you make them like, if you just give them like a whole episode or half an episode or even like 20 minutes to like just like solidify their relationship, and Tether Tyrant goes somewhere in the comic, but it's only one issue and it's only one part, I would love to see more of that. What if we
Yeah.
saw more of the Tethers? Like, that would be sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like backstory. So, and the guy that grabs onto the other guy and then morphs into him from that one issue, and we're like, what the fuck was that about?
Just because we got to stay consistent.
Yeah.
TJ, do you have one?
TJ?
I do. My glasses are on, so here we go. Jake Swartzy writes in and says, "Hey gang, I've been a fan of the podcast for a few years. I'm a fan that watched season 1 of the show without any knowledge of the book. I then found your podcast, and a few months later, I had read the entire series thanks to you guys. Now that I am experiencing season 2 with knowledge of the book, I enjoyed noticing the differences from the book and the show, such as Mark in the first episode is showing that he is having a tough time after the fight with Omni-Man. It almost seems as if he has some sort of PTSD from that fight. I think that this is because in one of the fights, Mark looks at his bloody hands and has flashbacks to the Omni-Man fight and looks like he is stressing out hard. Plus, he got mad when Cecil compared Mark to Nolan at Burger Mart."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job of capturing that. Man, that montage in the beginning of episode 1.
Yeah. Yeah, it has impact. Like, everything has emotional impact, not just like with characters and their fates, but like these characters are emotionally affected by what's happening to them, and it shows in this. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, only a couple more emails here, guys. And I've got one here from Travis. "Hello, Invincible podcast pals. First, the fact that you guys got the multi-talented Ross Marquand to be the announcer for this episode as the Immortal is great. I can't wait for next episode when he does it in Rudy/Robot's voice. And then the next episode in Ultron's voice. And then the next one in Red Skull's voice. And then, oh, you know what? Never mind. Just Immortal. That's cool. Second, thank you for playing and enjoying my answering my Robot vs. Dinosaurs question in my fan issue spotlight. And if I'm honest, I think Rudy or Robot would also win because of his ability to process info, plan ahead, and react to the unknown variables. But Dinosaurus would go down kicking, clawing, biting, and screaming to where I think Earth wouldn't survive. Now, on to season 2, episode 1. I loved it. It wasn't as jaw-dropping as the first episode of season 1, but I enjoyed it a lot. The alternate reality, the fact that Mark didn't kill Eve to initiate her power reset ability, Angstrom's reasons for the himself collaboration. Yeah,
Oh,
by the way, Eve, like that whole, she wasn't,
damn
if
it.
she's paralyzed, she couldn't do it. Yeah, brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that.
Damn
That's
it.
cool.
Wow.
Olga's guest appearance and the mysterious card. My guess is something related to Machine Head. Like after Invincible defeated him, he started a support group to help survivors of superhumans fight battles and then turn those same people against the said superheroes. It's a stretch, but Jeffrey Donovan's performance was so great, we need more Machine Head. Plus, the card looked like it
Agreed.
had a code on it, and the Amazeballs new title card, favorite moment. Thank you guys. So wonderful for the podcast. The great episode. And until we find out, Thetis and Conquest are related so that the great Peter Cullen can voice both characters and make mine a Kirkman. Love, Thetis. I'm sorry, Thetis. Travis.
Love
Sorry.
Thetis.
The way it like landed, Thetis was near Travis.
We have one more email. We have a little more. Anyways, this one is from Chris. He says, Invincible is back, baby. Holy shit, was it worth the wait? And it's finally back. The new animation is so much more expressive and crisp. The stories are fresh yet nostalgic. And the first episode proves it is still the greatest superhero story in the universe. I completely called it back in my email for the diner teaser in February that the script page wasn't a lie and that the fight with Immortal was an alternate dimension.
Yeah.
Completely threw fans new and old for a loop. So great. Stephen Yun talked a while ago about how he made Mark sound more young and naive in season 1 because he knew that Mark would eventually go through many stages of maturity, and that would reflect as time goes on. The alternate Mark's voice demonstrated that care with the same plucky Mark Grayson from season 1, but with the most sinister edge. He really is the perfect Mark in just understanding the character. That's so true.
Yeah, man.
Like the performance that he gives as the alternate Mark makes that scene work. Like it really does. You're
I don't like
right.
when people pull out things that we don't talk about, but are really smart and good. But I do like it. Good catches.
Yeah,
Good catches.
So he continues and says, I would have to agree my favorite scene was the beginning Karma Police flight scene.
Yeah.
First off, fucking Radiohead, question mark. Hell yeah. It's so interesting because obviously music sets a tone and creates an atmosphere, but without sound, both the Broken Boy flight scene and this new one are pretty identical, yet also the inverse of each other. They hit the same beats of Mark flying around the city in crazy ways, saving people, but with the music, they're completely opposite. Mark flies around carefree in season 1, saving people because it's fun and what he feels is the right thing to do. But now in season 2, Mark feels the weight of guilt and his actions are almost that of reparations. He spent so much time trying to be like his dad, and the karma, in quotes he put, of never meeting your heroes hits Mark like a train, pun intended. Double puns in this sentence, Chris. Stop it. Stop being good at words.
And I'm more mad that he's pulling out things that are still smart. Like, enough. Edit this email, Ryan. Edit it.
The scene is just so poetic and speaks volumes without a single word being uttered. Anyway, this is long. That's what she said. So glad. Chris wrote that. I didn't add
Smart
that in.
again.
That was
Smart again.
Chris saying
Damn it.
So glad I can be a part of season 2 with you guys this time around, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think of the rest of the episodes. Stay awesome, Chris. P.S. Here's my doodle. I tried to draw a Mauler, and that didn't work, so I tried to make him, and my thing is not scrolling down, so I tried to make him all burnt and fleshy like the end of the episode, and that didn't work. So it is what it is.
I just sent it to you guys.
I like it very much.
Yes,
It works.
good
It's
one.
it looks exactly like the episode.
Oh, wow.
Send,
That's
it
awesome.
send all of them to Ryan Otley.
I love
Send
it.
all of them.
I love it.
Yep. And then
so good.
the last bit here, we got one from our good friend Luke. We got a double back up on the Invincible podcast here. Kristen, Luke, Ryan, Bill, Wyatt, and the sweet one.
It's the sweet one.
Oh, see, he is.
Hey,
He is
toe
still
jump
here. He knows. He knows. Here's my doodle. I did it while waiting with my son to see the doctor. She didn't say this, but I was thinking it because the times she did the conquest thing. You'll see in the picture he drew. Also, Kirkman said it in the Q&A after episode 1 played. He's a big fan of multiple endings and beginnings. He loved Return of the King. The joke got a lot of laughs. Anyway, he loved the 3 beginnings and the 3 endings of episode 1. Your friend from the Invincible podcast, Luke. And Luke also went to the premiere, as he just said from the Q&A, and got to get this awesome little bumper intro from Steve Weintraub from Collider. I'm going to put that in right here.
Hey, this is Steve from Collider, and you are watching the Invincible podcast.
So that was really, really cool. I mean, I've been following Steve on Twitter for so long now, and that was really unexpected. That was super cool of you to do that, man. Thank you.
Did we
appreciate
did we
it. That's
see?
awesome.
Did he send his doodle?
Yes. Oh, I'm going to send it over to you guys right now. I just had it.
Oh my!
Oh,
Dude,
wow.
so
up.
here's the thing.
Shut
The
up.
reason why I wanted to see it, like, and I was like, yo, like, where's this doodle at? When we were doing Fan Art Friday,
Yeah.
Invincible Fan Art Friday, he like drew for Fan Art Friday to post for it, this quick sketch of Rexplode, and it was awesome. It was fucking awesome. Like, he knows what he's doing. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Guys,
Well,
the
and
Invincible
he drew
Podcast
the 3 of you. Yeah, he drew the 3 of you for the podcast
That's right.
podcast,
That's
and
right.
it was incredible.
Yep.
Like, oh my god.
he's a very good artist.
Between his art and also on the podcast, and then Chris's like really wise breakdown of all these things. His last name is Wise.
Oh my
everybody.
God.
It is.
I think they're
You're onto
I don't know, I think
something.
they're
Yeah.
So thank you all for sending in your emails and your doodles. Remember, you could send in your emails and doodles to theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter, where we actually got a couple doodles over on Twitter as well.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I'll insert those right now into the video so you guys watching.
kabam, kaboom.
That's right. So thank you over to, let's see, we got one from Roberto Flores, and we got one over on Twitter from Jack. So thank you guys for sending your doodles for the for episode 1. Send us your thoughts on episode 2 and your doodles for episode 2 over to us at theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com. And I think that does it. Are we done? Are we going to the breakdown?
So.
Is it?
I think so.
Breakdown of episode 2.
So that's it. Here we go, guys.
So we're already, after this, halfway through season 2, part 1.
Don't
So-
ruin people's nights, TJ. Don't
There
do
we
that.
go.
But yeah.
And one last
There we
reminder,
go.
because we didn't know at the end of this breakdown, keep an eye out for our streams of both Mortal Kombat and the Adam Eve game. Otherwise, that does it.
Enjoy.
The breakdown of episode 2.
To the past versions of ourselves. Take it away.
And here we are, back in time, having just watched episode 2, which is titled, "In About 6 Hours, I Lose My Virginity to a Fish." Probably the most bizarre title Invincible has had yet for an episode.
I can't believe
Yeah.
they called it this. That's insane. It's not only
Is
super
there-
long, but it's just out of context. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It is very much like playing into, Invincible gets into absurdity from time to time. So I think it's definitely leaning into that. This one is directed by Ian Abando, I believe I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and written by Matt Lambert. So before we jump into our full recap, kind of scene by scene, let's start with just initial impressions, overall thoughts in a few sentences. What did you guys think of the episode? Let's start with Bill.
Oh, I'll go first. All right, cool. I thought that it was jam packed, and if there was any episode if there was going to be an episode that was going to kind of help us know what they can do in an entire season, it was this one, because they did a lot in it, and it didn't feel rushed. It felt full to us because we know like the comics. So we're like, oh shit, they're adding all this stuff. So I'm excited for the future of this season after watching this episode with what they can do in a single episode. And I feel like we talk about that a lot. Like, holy fuck, they got a lot done in an hour.
Yeah.
So I thought it was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Like how much they put in this was the thing that stood out the most. My favorite scene from episode 1 was that, the Radiohead scene where we're seeing a lot of different things happen. That was this for an hour. Like that was this entire episode. And it was like at one point we're like, they're doing this too? Like it just kept going. Also some amazing comedic beats and some really emotional stuff. Other than that, I also thought that the animation was a little bit more consistent, especially with Mark. I noticed that I didn't see that, the his different looks quite so much.
Yeah.
But no, loved it. It was great.
Pretty much
TJ?
TJ?
everything that you guys said, but this reminded me of like when you go to a concert, like a big time concert, and the artist knows that you want to hear all the singles, but he also wants to play like all of his new songs too. So he does like a compilation of all his all their like big hit songs all in one compilation. You know what I mean? That's what this felt like. It was like, well, the comic fans want to see Atlantis and they want to see Shapesmith and they want to see like all these characters and all these little like not filler issues, but like filler type stories. And this episode was built to give us all of that pretty much all at once and be like, there you go. We did all of this stuff in season 2 and we did it all in episode 2 of season 2.
Yeah.
You got it all at once.
I think we were expecting, because we knew from the title what it was going to be, I think we were expecting a Eat Your Heart Out Neil Armstrong episode for Atlantis.
Right.
And when we go half the episode seeing 3 other locations and fights, and it's like, what?
And I'm so glad.
I'm
so glad that wasn't the case. Like I love the Atlantis stuff in the comic, but I was like, they're going to do like a whole episode of this. I was like less excited for it once we saw what the title was. But man, of course it exceeds my expectation. Of course it does. So good.
I mean, they could have done what they did on Mars in Atlantis if they had done closer to the comic, because that was way funnier and there was more to it. But I think for what they did and the changes that they made, it made sense. And that's important too, is that we keep saying jam-packed, but none of it felt rushed. Like, there's stuff with Shapesmith in it, and it wasn't rushed. Like, I forgot he was in it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't fucking rushed at all.
Wyatt, what'd you think?
I echo all the stuff you guys said. Yeah, it's so packed full of stuff. It reminds me of when the issues of the comic were coming out, and you'd pick up an issue, and it wouldn't necessarily be an issue where it's Conquest showing up for a fight or it's whatever, these big giant moments that we remember, but it's that issue where like every time you turn the page, here's another scene that is moving this plot a little bit more forward that makes you wonder where it's going. And there's so many of them at this point that it really is like the comic, where it's just like, oh yeah, I forgot Shapesmith and the whole thing with the Sequids, and I forgot this is happening, and now this is a little bit further along. But I feel like it took so many of those scenes that were sort of like the B plots that they're moving forward, and still added like the depth and the like extra stuff into the characters that we got in season 1 and we got in episode 1, where it just, like you guys said, we were all a little bit iffy on like, oh, is this whole episode just going to be the Atlantis story? And the Atlantis story is so like tied into where Mark's head is at with who he is as a hero right now. Like the way that they took a part of the comic that is a little goofier, is just kind of like, feels like a silly issue, and made it about like Mark reflecting about who he is as a hero while still delivering that funny stuff and that lighthearted stuff, is so cool. And yeah, it's just loved it. Fantastic. Can't wait to see how much they pack into the next 2 episodes. Like,
while also giving like Cecil a little bit of ammunition to like,
oh my god,
learn
there's
more
so
about
much.
Mark. Like,
we got to get into it.
Nothing was wasted. Nothing was wasted. All right,
get
go
into
ahead.
the recap, because it's all, there's so much. It took me a long time to write the recap because there's too many things. We start at graduation, which we saw in that first trailer with Principal Reginald Vell Johnson at Reginald Vell Johnson High School.
Principal Winslow.
Principal Winslow.
Yes, Principal
at
Winslow
Reginald Vell Johnson.
Yes,
High School.
voiced by
in my
Reginald
head, I
Vell
was like,
Johnson.
that's weird that he's the name of it's
Which
voiced by him.
Yeah, I thought it was funny how like they well, no, I was gonna say I like that he gets to say Invincible.
Yes, yeah. So it's William, Eve, and Amber. They're all like wondering where Mark is as he's like giving the big speech. It cuts to Doc Seismic at the Washington Monument, and Mark arrives there to stop him, starts talking to him, and a very funny moment where he's like, yeah, Professor Seismic, right? And he's like, Doc, I never taught. It's not a big deal. Like their banter back and forth is always very funny to me. He starts using the earthquake bracelets and his new jetpack belt, which I thought was very funny because last time we saw him in season 1, he says like, should have finished the jetpack as he's falling. So now he has that.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. That's so great.
I like how he used his gauntlets
to charge
to start the jetpack.
And
then turn it
also
on.
it has the music cue that like in the background, like when fighting him. That was cool.
Yeah. So he starts attacking the monument. He's like cracking it and sending it into the ground, which causes cracks in the ground and allows the magmanites. He's like on it as it like slowly sinks. Very funny.
The funniest quote was when he was his whole point was that that man raped planet Earth and stole the granite. And then Invincible was like, well, what about other buildings? He's like, and Doc's eyes was like, you can keep the ones made from wood.
And there was like that subtle pause too.
You saw him think about it. Like, he's right. Like, what's my excuse?
That's right.
He just wants to be a villain, and he doesn't really. He's trying to be consistent, but he's terrible at it.
So while they're fighting, it's cutting back and forth between graduation and the fight. The Principal Winslow gives some like relevant lines to Mark of sometimes life hits you with everything it's got as he's getting beat up. Very cool. Mark eventually defeats all the Magmanites and then goes to take out Doc Seismic, but is getting like blown back. So he flies up the Washington Monument, out the top of it to uppercut him and knock him out. And we get a great little line between Mark and Cecil where Cecil's like, couldn't have done that before he destroyed another national monument. And Mark's like, I mean, I could try to push it back out. Do you want me to? He's like, no, don't do that. It's a very funny moment. And then eventually cut back to graduation, where I thought was very funny that Principal Winslow gives a quote from the great Abraham Lincoln that whatever you are, be a good one, which is amazing just because I hope Immortal says that later this season. Like, I hope he tells someone that line.
Oh my God, I never even thought of that.
That is
Abraham Lincoln is in the show. He's in the show.
That is really funny. I completely forgot about that. However, because they had brought up the fact that there were fake quotes, I did check, and it is often attributed to Abraham Lincoln, and it was not a quote by Abraham Lincoln. It's by like a British author or something. I forgot who, but definitely wasn't Abraham Lincoln.
Keep in mind if you haven't read the comics, you probably have no idea why we're attributing Abraham Lincoln. But just go read the comics.
No, I mean, it's in season 1.
Does it talk about it?
Yeah, that's right. When you see his life, you see it go.
Right. That's right. I forgot they showed that in season 1.
That's right.
It would be funny if Mark was like, once he learns he learns that he was Abraham Lincoln. If he was like, hey, did you say this? Because
or if he's like,
I didn't say that.
It would be a good one, right? He's like, what are you talking about?
That would be good. That would be good.
So they all get their diplomas. There's a funny little moment between Mark and Amber teasing each other over their middle names. And then, of course, they all toss their graduation caps into the sky, where we get a nice recreation of the cover and, of course, the moment of the comic where Mark does that with his graduation
Is it going to
cap.
land in England next episode, or do we think we're going to see that?
No, I think it's.
I could see them holding it. I could see them holding it for later.
I think it's going to be the opening to episode 5. Yeah, I think it's going to be.
That would be good.
Yep.
That would be good. TJ.
One thing I will say is that I believe, because we have no reason to come back to him, we've probably heard the last of Reginald Val Johnson.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. That's why I meant, like, I really like that he got to deliver the line, because he's the one that gives Invincible his name in the comic. So it was cool that he got to deliver the line here. And I agree, TJ, it would be a great exit for him. In the comics, we do see him more. So I don't know. It depends. He becomes he becomes the dean.
That's right.
I was just gonna say he's like Mr. Feeney, and he follows the
kids.
Yes,
exactly. Which is a great reference, because that's probably However, I don't know if they need to.
They need to. They're gonna keep
Think
him
so?
on board, bro.
I hope
Oh
so.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's no
if
point
they
not
if
to, I
they
guess.
can and he's available, then they'll
I
get him.
forgot
But yeah,
that.
he of
But if
course
not,
ends his speech. He of course ends his speech by saying, "Remember, be bold, be original, be." And then we cut to the title, Invincible, which is where I'm gonna slightly take us on the tangent back to my prediction from last week.
Yeah, it was
Oh, yeah,
confirmed.
where-
It was confirmed.
Instantly.
We now
Instantly.
see at least the E
Yeah.
in black and blue in the background.
I don't think
We got
Wyatt should
so
be able to
excited.
make predictions anymore. He ruins it for
When-
That
me.
was so
He
exciting.
ruins it.
As mad as we were last time we talked about it, the fact that it was confirmed, I am double as mad. Double it.
We remember how last time we almost flipped the table? We almost like straight up rioted at Ryan's
So if
house.
you
And just to put into perspective too, we did our episode 1 recap about like 30 minutes before starting episode 2.
Yeah.
So in between me making that prediction on our last episode and us having it essentially confirmed was maybe an hour
So
at the most.
just in
yeah.
case you forgot or you missed that part of the last episode, Wyatt predicted that the intro of the cracking would slowly reveal the blue background, which would lead us into the blue suit of Invincible, which is a major part of the in the story and in the comic. And I think we all suspected, even Wyatt, like I think we all suspected for it to just be light cracks every episode with
I
some
love
blue
that
in the
it was this
background,
quick.
and it was just a huge
Yeah.
chunk of it blue in the background. We're like, oh, what the fuck? Like all of us watching it
Yeah.
together, like Wyatt on stream and everything, and we're just like, damn it. Yeah,
It's
it was,
great.
it was a moment.
Super exciting to see the black and blue being revealed. Like it's confirmed this is happening.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
And with how fast it happened, I almost do wonder if that's not going to be through the entire season of season 2, and that it's maybe going to reveal and have something different for the second half. But that also feels like really
That's
quick
bad.
to get to
It's
the
too
blue
quick.
being
It's too
significant.
quick.
So probably not.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I'm
moving
thinking-
on.
So is
thinking
the finale
Yeah.
going to be the full black and blue and then blood?
No, stop.
Okay, all right.
I can
Why?
see that.
Moving on.
Yeah,
We
I can
just
see that.
told you to keep
That
your
wasn't
stupid
me.
predictions to
That
yourself.
was Ryan.
Where you said that it would continue and there would be something for the second half, you fucking asshole. I swear to God, if you're right again, I'm gonna be so
We've
mad.
done
at
one
you.
scene.
We've done one scene.
Oh my
We
gosh,
cut
it's
to
such a long night.
Eve's treehouse, where we hear the song "Hey You" by Chair Model playing, where William, Eve, Amber, and Mark are hanging out. They're all kind of like enjoying some drinks together, but Mark is like super distant off to the side. Eve's turning some pine cones into more drinks for all of them. Mark kind of gives the excuse that he's on call. We get a funny little line from William being like, I love having superhero friends. I mean, Eve, not Mark. He doesn't even take me flying anymore. Like, very funny little line.
One thing I noticed
So Eve, oh yeah, go ahead.
was just like they were talking about their summer plans and everything, and Eve brings up the fact that she's going to be helping with the reconstruction in Chicago, and then she's like, "Oh, sorry," and
Yeah.
Mark. That's a theme through this episode that like everybody keeps bringing up Omni-Man and bringing up his dad, and then quickly being like, "Oh, sorry," like, and like 3 people do it, 3 or 4 people do it, and I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and that is like that. It's a cool aspect of what Mark is going through, because in the first episode it was just like Mark telling other people that he's dealing with this like angst about becoming his father, and now it feels like everyone else is walking on eggshells around him, of being like, oh, sorry, I know that that's probably like traumatic for you, for me to bring this up. Like,
I mean, for him to be like in his head about it, and then now for everybody else to be reminding him, it's like he can't avoid it. And so I think that was good for especially where this episode leads to in that boiling point.
Yeah. But Eve makes him a virgin Mai Tai since he's on call. And then they all cheers, and Amber says, to the best summer ever, which I'm sure isn't ominous at all.
No.
And not going to like
What's
go
interesting,
awry.
What's interesting, and I know that we're only 2 scenes in now, and we just got through the second scene, is that there's not really a lot of the same chemistry between Eve and Mark haven't really had an opportunity to, but there's not really that chemistry that's there. And I
kind of like that though, because Sorry. I kind of like that though, because it kind of gets us away from that and gets us to forget about that for a little while. And I
Right.
think they're doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, I'm with Amber and this is the norm. This is
Yeah.
just how we're living our life now. And Eve's like,
Mhm.
you do get a little awkward moment there between Invincible and Eve. Where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
hey. But other than that, I kind of like that they're kind of burying that
In the
now.
comic, the love triangle and the will they won't they was very much like in your face the
Right.
whole time.
Like part of Amber's
And
character was, oh, Eve's involved in this. Like the fact that they're
Yeah.
giving their relationship room to breathe is great.
time to grow, because again, like, and we talked about this in the first season, is that like when it happens, you know, spoilers, like it's gonna probably be like really I'm gonna wait to see, I'm gonna love to see the people who were so anti-Amber like be sad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hope that happens. I really hope it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, agreed. Next, we get a scene at the U.S. Space Agency where the astronauts from last season are telling their boss how serious the sequid problem is and how they need to do something about it.
Sequid. Put a fucking quarter.
Put it
Put a
in the
quarter
jar.
in a fucking jar.
In the jar.
Put a quarter
In the jar. We're that much closer to a commission, guys. Their boss asks Russ Livingston about it, and he gets very nervous and says, Martians? Is that how you call them?
Yeah, yeah.
I have to go use your urination chamber.
Yes.
And he runs off to go to the bathroom.
This was such a good scene. I love this
This
scene.
was immediately
Russ-
Ben Schwartz being
my
like,
God.
you got the right guy for
Yes.
the job.
Yeah.
I'm here and I'm Shape Smith. It's
Yep.
fantastic.
He's so good. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
fast forward, like him just like knowing that they grab those paper towels, but not knowing why.
Why?
So he just keeps grabbing them over and over and over again. Like,
As
so
he's nervous
it's
and
so
he's like,
stupid and funny. He's like,
"Oh,
this is
it's
what
so
humans do.
good."
They just grab these paper towels.
Yeah. And to
Fucking
have
love
that
it. So good.
he has that whole scene with his boss where he thinks he's going to be killed, but he's put on leave until he gets his head on straight, and then he looks into the mirror and goes, like, did I not do the head right when I
Yeah, yeah.
morphed into this human? Oh, it's so good.
It is great.
It's
Uh,
very much like Drax, like
Oh,
taking
yeah.
everything literally.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But there's a part early or later on where someone says hi, Russ,
Yes.
and he's like, hi,
Yes, Russ.
Like,
Hi, Russ.
like-
Yes, Russ.
yes, Russ.
Sure.
Like, he doesn't
It's
know how
so
to
subtle.
respond.
Yeah,
It's so subtle
exactly.
too.
It's so good. He's like,
I don't
"Oh,
think I
okay."
caught that moment until my second viewing, and I was like, did he just say yes, Russ? It's so it's fantastic. So next scene, we get a construction site in Chicago where they're rebuilding, and Eve shows up and starts using her powers to help rebuild a building that was damaged in Mark and Nolan's fight. All of the crowd cheers, but the construction worker starts yelling at Eve for like scaring the crew, and because now they have no way of knowing if it's built
scared
to
us.
code.
That was scary.
And there's a resident comes forward with her daughter and like comes to Eve's defense and like thanks her, saying, you know, it takes forever for anything to get done. It's about time people cut through the red tape. And she mentions how she's been trying to get the city to clean up an empty lot for 6 years now. So Eve starts using her powers again to turn the lot into a park. And we get maybe the most heartfelt moment in all of Invincible so far is Eve using her powers, and then a camera pans out and the little girl is next to her doing the same moves.
Yeah.
And every time I've watched the episode, I like, oh, it's
If I could.
it's so sweet.
If I could, Remy and Riker watched these episodes with me again for the second time, and Remy was just like loved Eve and loved the scene. And when like she made the swing sets and stuff, she's like, "Oh,
And that's
what?"
and
I
that's
was
why
like,
it's
"This is
there. And that's
this
why.
is
Yeah.
important." I'm like,
Yep.
"This is awesome.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the focus on Eve. It makes so much sense. Keep doing
Yes.
it. So good."
So cool.
So the crowd all cheers, and then Eve gets a phone call from her mom. She asks if something's wrong, and it cuts away to Mark at home, walking into the kitchen while Debbie is there, and she asks him about like, when did you start drinking coffee? He mentions since, you know, it's ever since he got his powers, and they both notice that one of the cabinets that was replaced by Cecil's people won't stay closed, and they're kind of like frustrated with it. Debbie tries to convince Mark to take a vacation, but Mark says that he can't really leave. He's just now working with Cecil. Debbie eventually like tells him, you know, I know you need to prove yourself, but no one thinks that you're going to turn out like your father. And this like makes Mark upset. Why would you even say that? So he starts storming off, and she grabs him by the wrist. And then Cecil says like, we have a situation. I need you. And he says, thank God. And she says, "What?" And he goes, "I have to go," and pulls his
Why
hand
you
away.
you
And
couldn't
it's so heartbreaking.
you
Ugh.
couldn't hear us when we're watching it, without us having a mute. But like the audible
Yeah.
gasp that I don't know if Bill did, but I definitely heard TJ. It's like like when he says
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 And I don't
I
know.
was nervous. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh." Yeah.
And I don't know if it was an intentional reference, but they close up on Debbie's hand reaching out for Mark's as he pulls away, and it feels very much like a lot of Invincible covers with the hand, like that
Mhm.
sort of
Oh, yeah.
recurring theme. It's not exactly like any of the covers, but it just the fact that they did like a close up on it felt thematically the
Yeah.
same. So
Yeah. To me, it felt really just as a parent and knowing what Debbie had gone through, like she's losing her son like she lost her husband, and she knows that like he's his father's son, so like that fear of losing him and him being so quick to like not want to be there,
And
it's heart-wrenching, and I feel so bad for Debbie.
and like what she says,
Yeah.
she refers to them both as being raw, and like she
Mhm.
knows everything's like eggshells, and her saying that, and she puts her foot in her mouth, but she didn't mean it that way. And I know he's taking it that way, but that's not how she meant it. Like all that
Yeah.
too is just piling.
And I think in the comic, during this period, Mark and Debbie obviously drift apart, but I don't think it's shown as well as this scene shows it and the other scenes in this
Yeah.
episode of really showing that like they love each other, they care about each other. Neither of them can fix what's wrong. Like neither of them are
Right.
able to do anything about like the trauma that both of them are carrying around. So Mark leaves, and then as he leaves and Debbie's alone in the kitchen, the cabinet swings open one more
Yeah.
time before the scene is open, just to punctuate
Ugh.
how it's going,
Russian
which
Yeah.
is so good.
Yeah.
So we cut to Guardians HQ, where the whole team looks very beat up. Rex is complaining about the training that Immortal's putting them through. And then in the locker room,
Someone hit
Rex-
him in the nuts. Someone got him in the nuts.
That's true. He does mention that. And he goes into the locker room and he hears Duplicate in the showers. So he starts to go and join her so that she can kiss away some of his boo-boos, I believe he says.
Yeah.
And then she comes out to confront him, being like, you and I aren't a thing, and this
Are
isn't
done.
happening. And as she's
Then
talking
she
to him,
starts,
she
like-
starts to lose focus, we'll say, because other things
She
might
starts
be
to moan
happening.
a little bit.
Hey,
Mhm.
hey, wait a minute. I have talked about, like, I remember one thing I was like, hey, when we talk to Kirkman, I want to know about Duplicate. I want to know if her duplicates feel what she feels, if they share pain, or if they're
Mhm.
just like,
Yeah.
and this confirms that they all kind of share the same, like,
They're
whether or
connected.
not she's
Yeah,
the one feeling
yeah.
it, they're all connected, which is fucking
Horrifying. Because
Yeah,
the amount of
yeah.
times
The
they
ones
die.
that get crushed, they all feel it. They
Yeah.
all feel themselves get splattered,
insane.
and that's
Yeah,
terrible.
it is.
That's wild. But she's, a little short of breath. Rex is like, I know that sound. And he starts to go into the shower, and Immortal and a couple of more duplicates come out. And Immortal tells him, this is none of your business. Kate tells him, like, you and I were never a thing. Me and Immortal are. Deal with it. And walks
Yeah.
away. Which, Rex
obviously,
getting a little of
Poor
his own
Rexplode.
medicine.
Don't you feel bad
Obviously,
for
what
him?
happened to Eve, a callback to
Yeah.
that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I felt about Immortal when I was reading the comic book, but I don't really like him as a person right now.
I
He's kind
don't
of
think
he's
you're
kind
really
of
supposed
pompous.
to.
Are you? That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna ask.
I don't think you are.
He
Okay,
always
all right.
read as like a stick in the mud kind of like,
Yeah.
But
Like
but
even
as
in the
like
first
a,
season, like who was he? Like he was the leader of the Guardians, but he
Yeah.
never really had any character building. And then he came back at the end, but the second he woke up, he was like in
Yeah.
revenge mode. And
Yeah.
then you get the fight with him and Omni-Man, and then he's just gone. So there was never any character really built with him to make you like
Not
him,
until
Okay.
which
much later in the comic. And then
Right.
there's
I
the-
think
right.
they're leaning
and now he's
in-
just come.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets awesome.
Yeah,
But
they're-
right now, I don't think you're supposed to care one way or the other.
right
about
now,
him.
all I want to say every time Immortal's on the screen is "Okay, Boomer." I just want to be like, "Okay, Boomer."
That's
Like,
Okay,
probably what they're
Boomer.
going for. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it's working. It's working.
So the next scene we get not Russ Livingston, the Martian who's impersonating Russ Livingston. Do we know does he have an actual name? I know he goes by the Shapesmith later on, but I don't know that we know his name. And I was trying to figure that out as I was writing this because he's not technically Shapesmith yet.
Yeah.
But anyways, he's in his apartment, just in a bathrobe, watching newscasts about the original Guardians as he reaches to pull out one of the several frozen pizzas that he has stocked the fridge with and just opens it up, getting ready to eat it raw when his landlady shows up and does the scene we were talking about. Hi, Russ. Yes, Russ. I know you've been out of a job, but rent was due a couple of months ago, so you know. And he goes, I do. It's just, every bit of dialogue is hilarious. And that he bites the frozen pizza while talking to her is just fantastic. She eventually walks away and she says, like, you know, figure out what you're going to do for money. He goes back in and sees Martian Man on the news and like reverts back to his Martian form.
He does not have a name in the comic.
Yeah,
I just
that makes sense.
It says unknown.
And I will say, this is jumping ahead a little bit because the next time we see him is when he's got his suit on. The one scene that I will say I missed from the comic, I love when he goes to visit Art to like get a costume design, and then like Art shows him a design. He goes, "Oh, that's great," and he's like, "Okay, so it's going to be this much, or you need to pay me." And he's like, "Oh no, I don't need that," and he just designs it on himself and then leaves. And Art's like, "What?" Like, I love that scene. So it is a bummer that we didn't get that, but I get why. This episode already had a ton in it, so.
But that would have worked. That would have worked really well in the show,
and getting Mark Hamill back
really well in the show.
Yeah, for sure.
We could.
So then we get a scene of Cecil sending Mark to Midnight City, which this scene, or most of it, is the scene that we got to see in San Diego Comic-Con. But it is Mark flying to Midnight City. Cecil's kind of explaining the whole magic behind it, that it was cursed by the Midnight Magician. He goes in and out of the barrier a few times because he's like amused by it, of like how it turns to night. And again, we said it before, but such a cool design in the way that it looks so much like Batman the Animated Series with the red sky and everything.
Gosh, it looks
it's
so
just
cool.
awesome.
This was another moment where Cecil says, I identified Darkwing's ribcage personally. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. Oops.
Jeez.
Yeah.
If I could, someone who has not read the comic book, i.e. Riker, was watching this with me as I stated before, and all the things that are like that you want to hit hard are hitting hard.
Yeah.
Like, so he's like,
so
wait,
good.
didn't he die? So that's not him, right? And I'm like, I don't know,
man.
Riker. And then he literally was like, oh, I'm not him, I'm the psychic. And he was like, oh.
Yeah.
I want to watch it with Riker.
It's awesome watching it with them because they don't know, and it's so great. It's so great.
So Mark shows up just in time to stop the new Darkwing from killing a criminal who he apparently had already killed one. He quickly realizes that this is Darkwing's old sidekick. He's apparently hearing voices because as Mark talks to Cecil, he's like, "You hear them too?" So they
Can
are
I
like,
say real quick, they did do the call back to the two villains that are hanging there, and their skeletons.
Yeah, fantastic. Such
like
a
this
fun
was
scene.
another moment. Like Stephen Yeun, especially in Atlantis, has some really great ones, but especially here too, when he's like, "Oh, you hear them too?" And he's like, "Oh, what? Oh, no!" Like he does.
Yeah,
he's so good. He's so good. Like, just
Yeah.
the little things sometimes. Are just...
And like I know we talked about it like during season 1, but like Final Space, Little Kato,
right.
he was fantastic as he did another voice acting gig, and he was great. So check that out.
So Mark and the new Darkwing start fighting. He explains that his predecessor made this exoskeleton to deal with people like Mark. So he's a little bit stronger than usual, you imagine. And he starts pulling him into the Shadowverse, and they hear creatures, the sounds of creatures that are dark, hungry things. Mark eventually like pulls him back into the Shadowverse, and Darkwing eventually is like, "You wouldn't." And Mark says, "You said it yourself. I'm Omni-Man's son. You have no idea what I'm capable of." So
and
I
love
like
who do you think they're gonna eat first? Like that was great.
Yeah, so good.
I like too that it started out with being like, where he said, "You're Omni-Man's son," and he's just like, "Don't call me that."
Yeah,
he's like very pissed off about it, and then it just comes back to where he's like, "You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I am Omni-Man's son." So
you see him like,
and I also love too that he's holding his arm, and Darkwing is just like punching him in the face, and Mark is just sitting there with
it back. Yeah, it's so
just
good.
sitting there like taking it all like no problem. Like,
Yeah,
so good.
So
that's
then eventually,
like, kind of terrifying though.
Yeah, Yeah,
That
for sure.
like getting lost, like putting. I don't know. I think that's very scary. Like if he didn't have his arm, that would have been the end of Invincible.
Yeah, because it also sort of
Get out of there.
it also sort of feels like there's like no gravity in that space. Like it's just a void. It's very
Yeah,
cool. It's
yeah.
a cool design.
Yeah.
So eventually they get out. Mark knocks him out very quickly. Cecil tells Mark, good job, but then drops the call because he has something else he has to deal with, because Debbie is there at the Pentagon to confront Cecil about how hard he's working Mark. They argue for a while, and she says like, oh, you like him because you can control him, and that he's not like Nolan, that he'll follow your orders. And then Donald walks in,
My God.
and Debbie is very concerned about the fact that Donald walks in because
I
she saw
love
him explode in a house.
That last episode, we were like, "Oh, nobody knows but Cecil, right?" And I had forgotten. Oh no, Debbie was there. You guys like, "Oh yeah, Debbie
Yeah.
knows." And then the next episode, we get this scene. It's so
Yep.
good.
Again.
So
Riker
basically,
was like, why is Donald there? He's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know, man.
It's so good.
So basically, we've
One
learned
thing,
any
though-
prediction we make is going to be resolved in the next episode. So we have to be very careful about whatever predictions we make at the end of this episode.
You have to be careful, Wyatt. You have to be careful because I'm always wrong.
Not always. Not
What,
always.
TJ?
So Donald comes up. When Donald first shows up, he and Debbie's standing there when Debbie first realizes like, oh, Donald's still alive. Before that, Donald shows up and hands like schematics to Cecil and says, this is the Mars information that you wanted. So I'm wondering if like Cecil has some information about Mars or what's going on Mars right now.
Wait,
So just
I
a
could
little
see
thing.
that.
Was it?
I think it's also. Go ahead.
It
Ryan.
was Mars. Because I was blending the
I
two
thought it-
storylines. Actually, you're right. So then that would mean that he's involved with that. I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm watching it
I think
as,
it's- I think
as we talk, so I'm gonna listen to what he says.
It's also noteworthy that even Donald is confused why he's there.
Yeah, dude,
Not
that's such a
why
funny
he's there,
part.
but, like why she's concerned.
And-
Donald
and
has
you
she was
see-
like, you're alive. You're like, well, like she's like freaking out, and then as she's walking away, he's like, that was weird.
Yeah, he was like, what was that about?
And you
What was that
see
about? Yeah.
Cecil like
The Mars
recognize that and immediately start escorting Debbie out to be like, I can't have these two in the room together because then presumably she's going to say something to Donald to make him realize that he died and that, so yeah, that scene ends with Cecil, escorting Debbie out as Donald kind of like watches them and is confused.
So are we to
Then
assume
we
that,
see
that
yeah,
the space agency has reached out to Cecil, or is Cecil doing something on his own, or is the Shapesmith related? Like the fact that he wants the Mars file. Interesting.
I like to think that like Cecil is monitoring that stuff on his own in the way that like, he is the Nick Fury where he's just always one step ahead of everyone and like monitoring. It would make sense that he's monitoring space and Mars. You know what I mean?
He's the one who wanted Mark to go to Mars with them.
And I mean,
as
he
an
obviously
escort.
knows what happened there.
Yeah.
But all right.
So we see Eve back at her parents' house. She is learning from her mom that they're in financial trouble. So she fills their fridge with food as her dad comes home in a Burger Mart shirt. He explains that he had to take a job there because the HQ for the furniture store he used to work for got destroyed in Chicago by you people.
They are really building us a backstory to him. They're giving him more to do.
Were you just so excited, Bill? You're getting
I was
more
so excited. I'm like, oh man, they're really delving
Papa
into
Wilkins
him.
lore.
I like too that it wasn't so obvious to Adam Eve at first either, but that like they were sitting down, she was having coffee with her mom, and she's like, what is going on? Like, I know something's wrong. And she's like, oh, it's just been tight around here. And she's like, well, why didn't you tell me? I can just give you whatever you want. And, like, fills everything. And she freaks out. She's like, change it back before your dad gets home. And then he walks in.
If
and it's
I
like
were Adam Wilkins, I would be like, yo, give me a PS5, give me a PS
Right?
VR. Like,
Right?
I don't know why. We don't disagree on much.
I was going to say, you're turning on him after being such a huge supporter. Maybe the only supporter.
his name's not Adam, is it?
It is.
It is, yeah.
Is
on
it
the name
Adam?
tag, it's
Oh, I
Adam.
didn't
Yeah.
know. Oh, no shit.
Isn't that weird? I thought that was
I
weird.
missed
too.
that.
I know.
Which I thought was interesting of like, is there any connection there of like Eve calling herself Adam Eve? Was it like
I was thinking
originally
about, like,
maybe a little bit of a tribute to her dad at some point? Who knows?
Yep, they're building him up. They're giving him more story. He
So
deserves it.
Eve turns one of the apples to gold for them to sell. The father continues like arguing, and then she leaves because she says the Times has to interview about the work she's been doing in Chicago. Then we see Amber at her job as she's making phone calls, trying to get people to vote for the city comptroller.
This was amazing. Even Mark was like, maybe just don't. What's a comptroller? Don't use words like audit. Like, just stop.
Yeah. Also great continuing Amber's character from season 1, and
yeah. Mm-hmm. So Mark says he's going to take her to lunch, and she says she knows she has a Thai place down the road, but he says he's picking the place. And then as they're flying, we get another song that is called "Truly Modern Love" by the Last Royals. Mark and Amber land. She's blindfolded. They land on what appears to be the Eiffel Tower, and then Amber notices all of the casinos around.
I have to stop you really quick,
Yes,
Wyatt.
go.
I know that me, Ryan, and TJ were all like, no fucking way is he gonna go to Paris with Amber, like, because we know that's
Right.
the spot. So to
That's
have
true.
him do that again, did you think the same thing? Were
I
you
didn't.
like,
I didn't even put that together. Yeah.
Yeah, we were worried.
Yeah.
And then when she was like, oh, it's Vegas, we're like, oh, okay, good. You're not a all right.
No, that makes sense though. So yeah, they're talking for a while. Mark explains, that she only has an hour for lunch. He can't fly her to Europe that fast without having her skin being torn off, which is a great, funny little line. Also
Great.
explaining like the actual logistics of if you could fly around the planet, but you're, with a human.
Yep.
So Cecil calls to interrupt the lunch, telling Mark that he needs him. Mark asks Amber if they can do dinner instead, and then goes to fly off at first, and then comes back and is like, actually, wait, I got to fly you back to your work first, which was really funny because there was a moment where it was like, is he just going to leave
She's
her
just
there? He just
at
flew her
the
to Vegas.
top of
and
the
then
Eiffel Tower
Peace
in
out?
Vegas. Yeah.
So a small complaint, not even a complaint, but whatever you call it, criticism or whatever,
Gripe.
that we had with season 1 was that they built up the relationship with Mark and Amber, and then they start dating, and then it was like the next episode they go to the college and she gets mad at him, for what happens and everything like that. And I remember, because I was listening back to some of our episodes, we were disappointed that we never got to see happy phase. Like, it was the early, like, are we going to start dating phase, and then her upset with him for keeping the secret, which again could play into like Mark not doing a great job at what he, being honest with her or whatever. But we missed out on seeing some of that because we didn't get to feel that relationship in its good times, and I really
we did, but it was like newish. Like, they went to the fair and stuff, and
that was it, dude.
It was that one scene. Yeah.
That was
Like,
it. That was the only thing.
But it was a little something, and that was like them building their relationship to building up.
Just
to
this
dating.
episode, like the graduation thing, like the treehouse, Paris, or
the middle
Vegas,
name thing,
like,
the back and forth.
like they have like a really good relationship from this episode already. So I don't know.
Their relationship is more believable.
That's it. Yeah.
Than it was in season 1. Yeah.
So Mark flies off and meets Cecil at the edge of the ocean on what looks like some kind of Atlantean platform that, as they're talking, starts to glow, seeming to like, show that they're arriving.
If anyone has seen
raining
the movie
and
Atlantis,
it just looks cool.
Yeah, if you've seen the movie Atlantis, you understand that technology.
Yeah. But yeah, this is that shot from the trailer where Cecil's just standing in the rain with the lightning going in the background. And he starts explaining the sort of premise to Mark about how, because his father killed their king, their customs say that, his next of kin is now going to have to marry the widow. And Mark starts arguing about how, he's got a girlfriend. He can't do that. He's like, wait, am I going to have to, and he's like, it's just a formality. Don't worry about it. Just go down there, maybe kiss the queen, and then everyone's happy.
Yeah.
So he boards the little ship as Cecil takes off to go back to the Pentagon.
Because
he returns to the Pentagon to see, because there's another plot line happening, and he's very upset that they called him back just because the Lizard League is attacking some research lab led by Supreme Lizard this time.
This was such a cool scene.
Yeah, so he sends in the Guardians. and says like if they can't handle the Lizard League, then they shouldn't be the Guardians. So send them in. And then they encounter another Rexplode, who we have a funny little moment of Rex being like, "Not this again! That better not be you, Rudy." And eventually they're asking who he is, and Shapesmith says, "I call me the Shapesmith," which again is just perfectly delivered by Ben Schwartz.
Yeah.
That scene continues. We cut back to Atlantis, where Mark is being given a breathing mask. He's introduced to the Queen, surrounded by all the other Atlanteans. She explains how she doesn't need a king. She's not, having him come down there to be king because she's been ruling Atlantis for over a decade while Aquarius was playing dress up with the humans, which is very funny.
Good. I love that they basically, like Mark telling Cecil, your Atlantean customs are a little outdated. They're talking about the comic book.
Yeah,
like they changed
definitely
what was originally in the comic book, and like it worked so perfectly. I loved it.
That's true. It is sort of funny that way too, whereas like, if this was all happening 20 years ago when the comic was first coming out, maybe that was their customs. But she says like, oh, we got rid of those customs, years ago. So yeah, it's been years since then. Makes sense. That she explained they abolished the old laws and that the new law is trial by combat. So the guards shout to release the Depth Dweller, which then we get the moment of the episode that I probably laughed the hardest, where we get the tiny little seahorse creature come out and Mark's like, okay, it doesn't really seem fair, but if I gotta fight it, I guess. And he floats over there and just goes, bomb, and you hear the
little squeak
sound. Yeah. And Mark, like, not fully committing to the punch either. Is
all right.
So funny.
I won.
Yeah,
Can I go now?
I did it.
Yeah. Oh, he's so good.
And then this, of course, reveals that it's like a, dangly bit coming off of a much larger creature that comes out that Mark has to fight.
Anglerfish thing. Like, again, didn't doubt for a second, but it was worth it because it was so well executed that it was awesome.
Yeah, you could see the setup of it's going to definitely, there's always a bigger fish, as Qui-Gon says. But the execution of the punch and the sound and everything is what made it so funny, I think. So then we cut to Debbie and Paul getting ready to show a house that they are selling. A much younger Paul than the Paul that we meet in the comics. Much more like, I would say, closer looking to Omni-Man than the Paul that is in the comics.
That's Paul? That's the same Paul? That's the Paul?
That's Paul.
His name is Paul. Yeah, and he says,
we reacted when we saw it.
You did it. I didn't know why. He was an old guy in the comic, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
Debbie.
So like, is this like the first? This is like the first reveal for us. Like, no trailer, no nothing. We had no idea Paul was showing up. That was kind of cool.
True. This is true.
Again, if you haven't read the comic,
Paul's a character.
Paul's the guy.
You guys did react.
There's a guy named Paul.
Like, what's going on? Ate some French fries and moved on.
So they're showing a house that they're selling. They're showing it to a couple. The wife of the couple seems very excited, seems to love the house. The husband is very negative. He's like shutting her down, saying, when she makes the money, she can decide things. He's kind of snapping at her. And then Debbie mutters, "She's not your pet." And you see the guy like react to, "What did you say?" Paul quickly tries to like divert it and tells her like, "Take the rest of the day off. I'll call you later."
Yep. And even before that,
again, the heartbreaking scene to see more of like the angst that Debbie's carrying around.
Even before that, she struggles with the stupid mailbox door.
Yeah,
flapping down, and
it won't stay shut.
It's like trying. This thing just keeps. There's something broken, and it keeps nagging at you, and you can't.
It's like an itch that you just can't. And it's just you're just getting more and more pissed off,
and you feel it.
It's such a cool.
Yeah,
it's such a cool. It's such a good like way to tell that. Like just like things like keep opening because they rebuilt the entire house, and it's just not the way it was.
Right. Things are just not.
We've all not
like put it right.
Yeah, not only that, but we've all experienced being so mad at an inanimate object when we're having a rough day, and you just want to fucking like you blame it, right? Because you have nothing else to blame. So good, so smart.
So we cut back to Mark in Atlantis fighting the Depth Dweller. Cecil says, like, "I'm going to call in backup. Like, don't worry," which we later find out is a bunch of missiles that he's sending in. But before the missiles show up, the Depth Dweller lets out a loud shout sound, and this sort of immobilizes Mark, and he like grabs at his ears and is talking about how much the sound is hurting him, can't really move. And then eventually it stops and he's able to keep moving. The missiles come and hit the Depth Dweller to kind of like knock it out a little bit, but it also breaks free one of the chains. So it starts, attacking all of the Atlanteans as Mark is trying to get away.
Can I pause you just for a second? I just want to make sure we shout out that this might be the best looking animation Invincible has ever looked, in my opinion.
It absolutely, his hair flowing.
Yeah.
And like,
the ripped costume,
the shading,
everything, like it was beautiful. Like,
his
it was
movement
insane
in water, so good.
Like, it was really good, and I don't know.
He rushes at the camera at one point, like towards the screen, and the goggle goes, and you see his eye for a split second. Like the detail on this is incredible. I loved the animation in this.
It really feels like they knew that all of us were going to go, oh, we're doing the Atlantis story. And then they're like, watch us do the Atlantis story. We're going to make it relevant to Mark's character. We're going to make it look awesome. We're going to make the action great. We're going to put little things that are going to pay off later. Like, they just nailed it. So Mark sees everybody getting hurt. He says, they just wanted justice for what my dad did. Cecil says, you're not your father, Mark. And he says, that's why I'm going back.
That's why I'm
And that was the moment where I was like, hell yeah. I love that we did the Atlantis story. I take back everything I said about how we should skip it.
Right?
So he fights the creature, eventually knocks it back down into the depths, and it like drags him down, but then we see him crawling onto the shore and vomiting some more as Cecil tells him that the Atlanteans are going to call it even since he saved the Queen's life. And Cecil tells him, next time I give you an order, you listen. So he's like reminding him like, hey, you weren't really listening to what I had to say.
So Wyatt, since we're 2 for 2 for vomiting in season 2 so far,
vomit next time?
Who's going to vomit in episode 3? Alan? Do we think Alan's going to be it and Alan's going to vomit?
Talia.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Because I think Alan will be in it because we haven't really seen Alan
predictions yet.
And where there's Alan, there's Canslock. So maybe somebody's eating some Canslock and they don't like it and decide to puke. But that seems pretty excessive for Canslock because it's always seemed kind of tasty.
My vote's Alan. My vote's Alan.
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay.
I feel like it's going to be somebody like random, like Rex or
yeah. Maybe Shapesmith. Let him vomit
Rudy.
some frozen pizza.
Rudy, like Rudy's never experienced throwing before.
True.
Oh yeah, I was like, what's happening to me? Like Step Brothers.
I'm gonna throw up.
You guys both are too good at that. At just that moment from Step Brothers.
Oh, we know it so well.
Yeah.
So we're back with Cecil now, and Cecil tells Donald to bring up the audio from the fight, and they listen to the sound that the creature used to immobilize Mark. And Cecil says, "Give it to the boys in R&D. I want to report in a week," which is. I didn't even catch that really the first time that we watched it. And then watching it again, I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not obviously notice that?
When it happened, we were all like, oh man. So then Cecil actually like acknowledging it.
Yeah. Which is cool because I don't think in the comic, do we get an origin of how Cecil sort of figures that out?
No, in fact, no, we don't. I think he even just assumed he was like.
We don't.
I think Cecil said in the comic, spoilers. We assumed because you can fly that it has to do with your inner ear, so we just disrupt your inner ear. So,
but it's cool to see that because again, like if I'm Cecil in that position and the Omni-Man situation just happened, I'd probably make the same call, right? Like you need something. Yeah, it's really cool. I love that they're planting kind of those seeds. Donald mentions to Cecil that Debbie seemed very distressed when she saw him earlier, but Cecil just says she's a distressed person.
And even Cecil's trying to keep it from Donald. Like it's oh man,
it's so cool.
And they have a moment too where like Donald's still looking at him and waiting, and Cecil's like, anything else? And he's like, no, sir. And he walks away, and you see Cecil watches him walk away like, oh no, he knows something, and this is not going to work. I can't keep it under wraps. So Eve returns back home the next scene to her parents and sees that they've thrown out all the food that she made for them, as well as the golden apple. She tries to explain that she's just trying to help, But her dad then asks, "You mean like you helped in Chicago?" and throws the newspaper in her face, showing that the lot that she turned into a park has collapsed because it was unsafe to build on and that dozens were injured, is what the newspaper says.
Including the mother and daughter who were
we
like,
see the pictures of the two of them in the picture. And he tells her, "Your powers don't make you a hero. They make you dangerous. And don't come
In the
back
trailer.
until you've figured that out." Like,
can't agree more.
A gr-
Can't agree. I mean, he's right though.
great evolution of the comics and her character, and like where do you take
Yeah.
this, and like kind of grounding it and showing these things like that these all have repercussions. Like
Yeah.
you don't know what you're doing necessarily. Just because you could do these things
Yeah.
don't mean you're actually able
Yeah.
to do
But
it
you should.
properly or in a certain way. Like it's really fascinating that they're opening this.
Civil War,
Correct
like
me if I'm
the good Civil War,
Yeah,
like from the comics. and
correct me if
Civil
I'm
War.
wrong, but in the comics, Eve just does good and everybody loves her and she's just perfect,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, this
Like,
yeah,
she's
we
in
don't
the-
have this kind of a trial for her where she like
Right.
messes up. But what I like about this too is that in the same way that like when we watched the Adam Eve special episode, you see that she is having to like go through so much trauma and so like learn so many lessons about life at a much younger age than Mark had to. And I feel like here we are seeing her learning the like I need to think before I jump
yes,
metaphor
Yeah.
that like Mark learns later on. And
Which-
it always is that like
which
Eve is just a little more emotionally mature than
which
Mark.
I think
and
is going
she's
to
sort of learning those
really
lessons. Yeah.
help Mark later. So they're
Yeah.
kind of developing her to be the support that Mark needs later in the
Yeah.
story, which is
100%.
so great. So great. I love it.
Yeah.
Which is a lot like Debbie and Nolan, if you think about it.
True. Yeah.
What's interesting, guys? Not to go back to the whole love triangle thing, but if I were watching season 2 right now, I would not think that Eve and Mark have a future together.
Which is
At
what we
this
were talking about before. I
Yeah.
think that's
Which
great.
I think is awesome.
Yeah.
I
Which
love
is
that.
awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then we get Debbie going to the kitchen to get a wine glass from the cabinet. When the cabinet door swings open again, she loses it, starts slamming the cabinet door shut over and over, just screaming at it. Wine glasses crashing onto the floor, eventually breaks the cabinet door off its hinges and like slams it against the counter, falls to the floor, collapses, starts crying. And as this is all happening, Mark walks in and sees her on the floor. And it's such a heartbreaking moment where she looks at him, sees that she has seen him, or sees that he saw her in this moment where she's incredibly vulnerable and raw,
Yeah.
and like thinks, and then just keeps crying again. It's like, I can't do anything to hide this anymore. I just have to let it out. And he goes
And
to
then
hug
Mark-
her, and
Mark
she
just
puts-
realizes what an asshole he's been
Yeah.
this entire
Yeah.
time, and just like not really taking her feelings into account, or like taking them into account, but like not like being selfish and just dealing with his own problems of like, oh, I just don't want to become my father. I don't want to become my father. That's all he was talking about this entire episode. And then to see like, oh shit, this is affecting somebody else as well. And I have not been showing or caring. And that like you said, Wyatt, she puts her hand out to kind of push him away at first. And I love that because it just drives it home even more. Like, no, like you haven't been there for me. And then she like lets him in and then they hug. I do kind of wish they had kept that though. And like played into that where it's like, make him feel even worse. Like I wanted Mark to feel bad in that moment. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong for that, but like, I they hugged, they embraced, and now they're good.
The hand pushing him away was heartbreaking enough for me that this did feel like, because there's a scene in the comic, again, spoilers for this part of the comic, but there's a scene in the comic where it's very similar, and Debbie has already been drinking a lot, and Mark comes home and she says like, why did you make him leave?
Mhm.
Like, why did you make Nolan leave? And I feel like this is the show's version of that scene. This is us showing us they're at their lowest. And again,
It's show, don't
neither
tell.
of them can do anything to fix each other. Like I feel like the last scene between them was Debbie trying to help Mark and like do something to help him. And then this scene is Mark realizing he also can't do anything to help Debbie.
And-
that like
and
they both just can't do anything.
and what we talked about earlier with like taking it out on the cabinet door and this like this crack that or like TJ mentioned, this itch that kept coming this entire episode and building and then the dam broke. It like makes me tear up like this, like seeing that. And then like because like you said, Bill, like everybody has that moment or those days where it's like you just need to like, just really take it out on something, and for her to do it then, and then the way Mark walks in, it was all done so well.
Yeah, agreed. And then so our next scene, we're back at the Guardians HQ, where Shapesmith is being given a tour as they are asking him about his powers. He explains that he got his powers in a random industrial accident because he is a normal human superhero. And as he's telling this story, we see the real Russ Livingston being controlled by the Sequids, as he defeats the Martians, takes one of their giant ships that just looks straight out of the comics. When I saw like the design of that, it's on one of the covers around that era too, right? And I just remember like it sticks out so much that I was like, wow, they just nailed the design where it looks just like that.
The only thing that was missing was what, Ryan? What was missing?
What, him saying soon?
I know what it was.
Him saying
Yeah.
soon. He needs to say soon. Every time he's in the show, he needs to say soon.
Next one. Like the next, like there'll be yeah.
So then we see the Lizard League back at their headquarters, while Supreme Lizard explains that they're unstoppable no matter what social media says, which I think is just a really funny line of just whenever somebody calls it social media, like that's a like physical thing, it makes me laugh.
It was great, like him saying, "Did we lose? Yes. Was it embarrassing? Yes.
Is it all my plan? Yes.
Yes." All of the Lizard League like little minions are just like standing there, like
stoic.
They look very brainwashed. Yeah,
it was very funny.
And then, of course, a gunshot rings out as we see King Lizard has returned and killed Supreme Lizard and says that he is now in charge. Any objections? And then we get credits.
Definitely the kill first, ask questions later from the trailer.
That guy.
Like, that was the moment where it was like, oh, there's the voice.
There he is.
Straight from the comic too, having that like headshot, and like loved that. That was really cool to see.
Yeah. So then we get the first credits, but it cuts then to the Pentagon with parking in front as the sign, establishing that we are now not in our universe, but in a different one. We see a bunch of GDA soldiers running into a room as an alarm is going off. And then we see alternate universe Mark trapped in a big, huge device. Not unlike, some other Viltrumites that sometimes we see trapped in a big device when they're being held captive. Keeping that spoiler free, since that's not really this part of the comic. And we see Angstrom there questioning him about how he got caught. And they explain that the people used experimental quantum bombs on Nolan, and that they eventually wore him down and caught him while he was sleeping. And then we see female versions of Donald and Cecil showing up to question who he is.
I called that shit. I called that shit.
And I'm going to take credit for coining. I don't know if that's really their names, but what did I say? Cecilia and I don't remember what I called Donald now. Oh no, whatever. We can go back to the other episode.
I'm gonna take credit for I called that we would not see Angstrom in this episode until the very end.
Yeah, you did. Yep. See, I'm not the only one.
Which I feel like now that he's been in 1 and 2, he has to be in all
He'll
of
be
them.
in 3.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, he's gonna be a main.
Which, this is weird how this works because we're in our little time bubble right now. Yep. But just today on one of the videos that you sent, Ryan, Kirkman does say a thing about how like they're really committing to doing something interesting with their post-credit scenes through this season. And so to now be in episode 2 where we've only seen 2 post-credit scenes, both of them have had to do with Angstrom so far. Very curious. Yeah.
So maybe
we won't.
It's always Angstrom in the after credits. Like that's the only way we see his story.
Or it's always.
I bet that's it.
Yeah,
cool.
It could be.
I bet that's it.
Okay.
Because why do we need to see him again?
Yeah.
Why do we need to see him?
Yeah, we don't until we do.
Until
1,000%. That's what it is. 1,000%.
So they're all going to be maybe.
Yep. You heard it here.
We'll know soon.
We always get to the bottom of it.
So
Angstrom says they're asking who Angstrom is. He says, "Me, I'm not your problem." I put Cecilia says, "Then whose problem are you?" Because female Cecil is Cecilia to me. She says, "Whose problem are you?" And he says, "His." Well, not his, but close enough. make him pay for what he did to your world, as he exits through a portal, and the mark there says like, you said you were going to help me. Where are you going? And
Sterling K. Brown, even though
And
we
then we
heard
get
that line in the
so-
final
trailer,
credit.
he's so good.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Fantastic.
They changed up his motive, I guess, a little bit in the show, where he said they're all his memories, right? So what is his grudge against our mark? Because like he's saying, like, because in the comic, Angstrom believes that our mark caused this deformity in Angstrom. In the show, that's not the case. In the show, he's remembering all the Invincibles from all the different
think he's
universes,
just-
killing the people that he loved. So what is it that
I
he
think
has
he's
against
confusing our mark with an evil. Like, this is an evil mark. Evil mark stopped the machine. Evil mark, who I know who has killed all these people. That evil mark
Yeah.
stopped the machine.
Yeah.
That's what
The
he's
problem is 99%
knows
of
that
the
there's
time.
other
Yeah, but-
Invincibles in all the other universes. He thinks they're all good. I mean,
Yeah, but
he's clearly
no.
punishing one of them.
99% of the marks that he has memories of are evil, are bad. Like most of
Including
the
the
time.
one that
so
he just talked to.
most of his memories are
Right.
bad. So I think that's what it is.
I don't know why he's honing in on this one Invincible when they're all evil, and he should be going after, his mission should be to
because there's an
kill
infinite
all the
number.
Invincibles.
Because there's an infinite number.
Right.
He wants revenge. He said himself. He wants revenge on the one that did it to him. That's
Yeah.
right.
And I think the Mauler in episode 1 saying like, you're all mixed up, like you can't tell which memories are yours and which ones are the others, like that felt like their way of being like, he obviously is confused about a lot of things, or just has a lot of mixed feelings in his head. So it makes sense to me that he is sort of assigning a lot of the blame, even from other marks, onto our mark, and just knowing that like in most universes he's evil and he did this evil thing to me in this universe. I need to get my revenge on him. Like that's how I took it. And that is our final credits, which brings us to the next section of our little recap here, which is of course our episode Doodles, our Doodles, whatever we want to call this episode, where we each pick a scene from the episode. Could be your favorite scene, could be one that you just wanted to draw so you can talk about again. Does anyone want to go
So
first? Because I went first last time.
I'm surprised that nobody drew the same scene or the same thing last
was
one.
too.
I'm curious
Yeah.
to see if that continues. There's so much that could have been drawn.
I
Yeah.
bet
I don't think
not,
it's going to happen.
because
I
it's too
think
much.
someone drew Russ or Shade.
I
I
think that-
almost did. I almost drew this of him like
Ah.
putting his head on straight, but I didn't draw that.
TJ did.
Who's going first?
Who's going first?
TJ, go first. Since I called.
TJ,
Since
go
I called. I
first.
think you did. I think you did Shapesmith. What'd you do?
All right. I did mine super quick, so it's not great, but just because it was, I feel more special to us because we did see it in San Diego. I drew Invincible
Nice.
holding
Nice.
again my ring light here.
I love
Look
it.
at that
Invincible
jawline.
holding.
That's
Oh,
a
man.
good jawline.
Oh, thanks. I feel like it was.
Jawlines and collarbones.
the
That's
strong
what
jawline.
When you
Yeah,
when you
oh,
said
wow.
we saw the scene, I pictured you holding it up and it's just all black. Like you just took the marker.
Yeah, Midnight
This is the
That
Shadowverse.
would have been really cool.
Just put little stars in it.
I could draw the white room in
Yeah.
the future scene and just leave the whiteboard blank.
go.
That's funny.
But yeah,
Nice.
I wanted to draw more of Darkwing but I ran out of time.
All
So
right.
yeah, there
Love
you go.
it. Love it. Looks great.
Worried Wyatt might have drawn this, but we'll see. I'll show mine.
Nice. That's
really
really good.
Ryan,
you.
had Katie draw that.
Did you pause
I
it
did it.
on that?
Oh, no,
on
I
that
paused
part?
it.
Yeah.
Teacher
That
of
was, yeah.
I
Yeah,
paused
liar.
it and I did each section. It's like drawing
Really
Mickey Mouse.
good.
You know what I mean? I made sure and I
Yeah.
erase and then fix it. And no, I did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love the
Good for
squeak.
you.
I did not draw that. I
Yes.
didn't draw that.
Okay, good.
I'll go with mine next because I feel like mine's kind of a downer. But mine is just the cabinet.
That was my second idea, dude.
Just the kitchen
That's
cabinet hanging open.
Yep.
Just that
Nice.
thing that can't be
I'm
fixed.
already mad at it. I'm so mad at it. All right. Any guesses?
Is
Please
it
tell me you
is
drew
it
Donald again.
immortal and duplicate?
What'd you say, Ryan?
Did you draw Donald again? That would have been.
I
really funny.
almost did.
Did you
I
did you
literally
draw
almost did.
did you draw duplicate losing focus? We'll say.
That's
Nope.
what I was thinking. That's
Nope,
what
I
my
did
not.
prediction was.
Okay.
Oh my god.
You're grounded.
And Ryan, I did the same thing you did. I got a picture for reference, and I'm like, I need to make sure that I do him justice.
Right.
Yeah, you got to really capture all of his essence,
good.
you know?
Well, make sure you guys take pictures. We'll post these online, of course.
Yes. And that brings us to the
And
end
if anybody
of
wanted
our...
to draw their
Yeah.
own favorite like little doodle, send it in.
I think we should we'll post these. We'll post ours every week. And if you want to post your own doodle underneath that post, and then we can bring it up on the
next
show
episode.
on the next episode.
So send in your thoughts on this episode, send in your doodles of the episode, and then in the next episode, when we're doing our intro for that, we'll kind of recap those thoughts that are sent in. And then we will be back next week with a recap of episode 3. We are 50% of the way done.
Stop
with
doing this. You said you were going to do
Invincible
it.
Real quick predictions.
Oh yeah, I forgot. We totally skipped over predictions.
Just like what do we think
we
is
can,
next
we can jump into
episode?
that and do quick
Kalen,
predictions first.
Telescria, and I
Totally.
think we'll get Thetis.
Totally. That whole
Yeah,
thing that we've seen in
agreed.
the trailer and the screenshot of Talea,
Yeah.
all that, and I think all episode. I don't know what else.
I was gonna say I think it would be cool if we just did not get anything on Earth and it's
They
all
did-
Wow.
We
animal.
talked about this before. I asked if they would do this,
Yep.
and I feel like based on the last episode showing so much, I
Yep.
think they could do it.
We're gonna take a little break from Earth. I think so too. And also the fact that we got Alan is a main character in the show, and we got like 2 scenes of him in season 1. We need more of him, and I can see them doing
The
a
other
whole
side
episode.
of it, I don't think they have an hour worth of content for that because knowing what we know from the comics, that's a lot for.
But General
time to-
Talaya's in it. They're gonna be building
No,
more
I
story.
know.
Yeah, here's what I'm gonna say. My first reaction to that was I don't love that idea because there's not a ton of content like at this time
Yeah.
in the comic off world. But if they do that, I hope that we get like give us a scene of just some Viltrumites interacting. What are they up to right about now? Like give us if they're gonna commit to
cutaway.
we're doing a whole off-world episode, give me more than just Alan and give me like what the other players are. Set those seeds up so that when they come out, it'll be.
I'm so excited because I feel like we have watched or we have seen the majority of the trailer at this point. All that's left is really the Alan stuff and
The black hole.
the black hole and Kill Cannon. And I think those are the only ones from the poster that we haven't seen. Yeah, Alan and Kill Cannon. So Thetis from the trailer.
Well, and there is a scene with the Lizard League that we haven't seen yet.
Okay.
With Rex and the Lizard League as well.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, and that wraps up our recap of episode 2 of season 2 of Invincible. We will be back next week with episode 3, which we're gonna get ready to go watch right now, which I'm very excited about.
Throwing it in their faces.
Bye. Don't forget to send in your emails about your thoughts on this episode or last up. How does that work?
On
Time
this
travel's
episode.
super weird right now. This episode, so we can discuss it on
Beginning of
our
next
next episode. Right.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
But yes, you seem okay. Your internet and you as a person, both of them seem okay.
Can you hear what sounds like a beaver?
Nope.